Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Panachari Yamunatira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jayam Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Mayapur Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Yamuna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki Tulasi Devi ki Transcendental Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Transcendental Book Distribution ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Hare Krishna everyone. We are reading today from Transcendental Diaries by His Grace Hari Suri Prabhu. We're on chapter 5 entitled Sanand, and it's December the 29th, 1975. So let's just start with some prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvedam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badam Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Pushpa, can you get my phone in my room? Sorry, I forgot. We need that for the class. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's just start reading, but she'll bring my references. Okay, no morning walk again today, although Prabhupada is feeling a little better. So Srila Prabhupada's health wasn't very good at this particular time, and although he tried to stay as regulated as possible, sometimes it wasn't possible for him to go out on his morning walk because his health became quite difficult. Rather than take his massage on the roof, Prabhupada sat on the veranda outside his room overlooking the inner courtyard of the house. He could hear Harikesh preaching enthusiastically to the king's son and his wife inside a room across the courtyard down on the ground floor. He gave a slight motion of his head and a sidelong glance to indicate it to me. He listened appreciatively for a few moments and said, "He's preaching very nicely." Smiling, he remarked that Harikesh is very enthusiastic for preaching and that is his greatest asset. So Srila Prabhupada and some of his disciples were staying with the king of Sanand, who had invited him after a program to stay with them for some time. So Srila Prabhupada was there, and Srila Prabhupada was appreciating his disciple who was preaching to the king. And elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada explains that anyone who has life can preach Krishna consciousness. So all of us have some life, and we can preach Krishna consciousness. And he encouraged that we should preach very enthusiastically. Anyone who has life, even if we don't know that much, still if we try with enthusiasm to preach Krishna consciousness, then everything else will come, Srila Prabhupada would say. Okay, so our hosts are cooking for us, but Harikesh still prepares Srila Prabhupada's meals. In this way, Prabhupada can maintain his regular diets suited to his own taste and delicate digestion. He likes to eat alone and rarely allows anyone to remain with him while he honors his prasadam, as I found out this afternoon. Prabhupada sat down after taking his bath, and I brought in his plate. He began to eat, so I sat obediently in front, eager to serve. I thought myself very privileged to share the intimacy of Srila Prabhupada taking his lunch. Prabhupada, however, looked up from his plate and raised his eyebrows, questioning why I was there. He clearly felt the intrusion, and slightly embarrassed, I left. I could understand he likes us to do things with reason and purpose and not simply hang around. So Srila Prabhupada, whenever he would honor prasadam, actually he taught us a great deal just from doing that. Because when we're chanting Mahaprasadam Govinde Namo Brahmane Vaishnave Swalpam Punya Patam Rajan Vishwashona Vijayate, we're actually saying that for a devotee who doesn't appreciate the holy, or basically the verse is saying that we can't develop faith in the holy name or in prasadam or in Krishna if we don't have appreciation. Wait, no, I don't know the translation. I'm waiting for my... Do you know the translation? Anyone? Yeah, the exact translation. Yes. those who have little pious credit those who have very little pious credit, they don't have faith in the holy name or in prasadam. So having faith in the holy name and in prasadam is synonymous. You can't separate the two. Krishna is a holy name and prasadam. You can't separate having faith in those two. So prasadam is very important. Prasadam is food offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's sanctified. It's not just ordinary food. It's very, very special. And Shrita Kirti Prabhu, he was describing how Srila Prabhupada would honor prasadam. He never rushed. He was always very calm and very peaceful. And he didn't talk about so many different things. So Shrita Kirti Prabhu also advised that when we honor prasadam, thank you so much, I'm so sorry. When we honor prasadam, we should also not just discuss so many different things, but actually we should be very focused and absorbed on honoring prasadam properly. Prasadam is not just something ordinary. And also what's amazing here is that we're seeing that even though Srila Prabhupada was traveling so much, he still maintained a very regulated schedule. So he would always honor the same kinds of prasadam at the same time. There was no such thing as jet lag for him. He would just immediately adapt to wherever he went. And there's this really beautiful conversation which Srila Prabhupada has with Bob to just illustrate for us the kind of faith that a devotee has in prasadam, or a perfect devotee, the kind of faith he has. And he was just making a point that if we just consider Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offered poison by his father, he just offered that to the Lord with love. And Prabhupada explains that anything that the devotee offers to Krishna with love, Krishna will accept. And then the devotee, whatever is offered by Krishna back, then he will accept. So whatever prasadam it is, the devotee accepts. So then Prahlad, he can drink this poison as nectar, even though it's just poison. And I was thinking also of the example of how Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, and he was also fine. Devotees can drink poison and it's nectar because they offer everything to Krishna. I think Bhima as well, he was also poisoned by Duryodhana. And he didn't die, he was fine. He offered everything to Krishna. So Prabhupada also just brings up this point that even if something is very spicy, any devotee who is perfect in Krishna consciousness can actually honor that without any problem. And but on the other hand, we shouldn't try to imitate those perfect devotees who don't discriminate. So he says, a perfect devotee does not discriminate. But you shouldn't imitate them. As long as you have discrimination, you're not a perfect devotee. So you shouldn't artificially try to imitate the perfect devotee. But for a perfect devotee, he doesn't discriminate. Whatever is offered to Krishna is nectar. That's all. Krishna accepts anything from the devotee. And then, like I said, the devotee, he accepts anything which is offered to Krishna. He doesn't discriminate between this prasadam and that prasadam. He just sees it all as nectar. Okay. The only program today was in the evening, the final one in Sanand. After a short half-hour lecture, many people came up to the stage and gave garlands to Srila Prabhupada. Then the king's son and his wife stood before Prabhupada, jointly offering a gigantic multi-tiered lamp of 108 wicks to Prabhupada. Not only was the lamp heavy, being made of brass, it was also extremely hot. A huge flame shot up from the burning wicks about a foot high, but somehow they held on to the lamp and completed the puja. We performed kirtan. and all the family members and prominent citizens sang a traditional bhajan. There were some short speeches of thanks, and finally the highly successful Pandal series was brought to a close. Now we are on December the 30th, 1975. Early in the morning, Prabhupada took his leave, graciously thanking the king's entire family for their kindness and hospitality. He was very happy with the programs and talked with the king's son about organizing the village preaching. Prabhupada's enthusiasm has clearly rubbed off on the Yuvraj, and he seemed very eager to help us push forward Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So the Yuvraj is the prince, and he was inspired by Srila Prabhupada. And in one of the previous classes, we were actually talking about this point, how Srila Prabhupada is associating very closely with the king, not very closely, but he's staying in the same space as the king and accepting hospitality from the king. And there was this point which came up that we saw how Lord Chaitanya was so careful in the case of King Prataparudra. He wouldn't associate with him at all. He said, I won't even meet him. That's how strict he was about not associating with anyone who was closely relating with a lot of wealth or a lot of opulence, as kings must. So Lord Chaitanya kind of set that example for us, but then Srila Prabhupada, he was just thinking, how can I preach and how can I share with everyone regardless of who they are? So he was very liberal, and it's also said in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 text 29 that the devotee is actually more kind than the Lord himself because he understands the purpose of the Lord. What's the purpose of the Lord? It's to inspire us all to try and get back to him. So Srila Prabhupada could understand that very perfectly, and he didn't reject anyone, and his mood was just that he wanted to preach to everyone, in whatever position they were. And now we're in Ahmedabad. We drove to one life member's house in Ahmedabad. After a brief reception, Srila Prabhupada boarded a silver carriage drawn by 2 horses for a procession through the local district. This time Prabhupada had me sit directly opposite him, at his feet, on the lower front seat. It was strikingly different from the Sanant and Bavala parades, where Prabhupada's presence had attracted crowds of thousands. Here, only a few hundred people lined up along the route, mainly out of curiosity at the sound of the kirtan. It appeared that the event wasn't well advertised or organized, yet those who attended the parade were nonetheless respectful and sincere, and Prabhupada was pleased with their attempts. So it appeared that not that many people came because of the advertising. It wasn't well advertised, but still Srila Prabhupada was pleased with the attempt that the devotees made to put this program together. So for us also, sometimes we see that the results of our services, they may not seem outwardly successful, but if we have sincerely tried to please our spiritual masters, then actually that is in itself a great success if Guru is pleased. And we should know that if we are offering everything to Krishna, then the results of our activities all depend on him. He will decide exactly what is needed for our spiritual progress. And sometimes it may seem like we're trying so hard and it's not successful. Why? But it's just Krishna deciding. And even those who don't offer their activities to Krishna, ultimately everything is decided by him, because not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. So we can always accept that Krishna is deciding the outcome, and it's always perfect, especially when we're trying to offer that as a service to him, whatever we're doing. Like Arjuna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he didn't want to fight, but Krishna said, you fight, and then you're just actually instrumental in the fight. He says in It's chapter 11, text 33, says, "Therefore get up and prepare to fight. After conquering your enemies, you will enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachin, can be but an instrument in the fight." So Krishna already decided that this is everything that should take place, and you're just instrumental. All of us are just instrumental. Lord Chaitanya has his plan. There are so many people today who are going to get books. Whether we go out or not, somehow they will get a book if Lord Chaitanya decided that that is his plan. We're just instrumental. We can just say, yes, Krishna, I want to try to be instrumental in your movement. I want to try to serve you. But actually, ultimately, everything is already arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. We ended up at a small temple of Lord Shiva. After offering respects to the deity, Prabhupada gave a short lecture in Hindi. Then it was on to a live member's house for lunch and a short rest. Yashamati Nandana then took Prabhupada to see a house he is thinking of renting for a center. After inspecting it, Prabhupada sat in the back seat of the car next to me, ready to leave for the airport. Just then, a young boy of about 10 came up to the window next to me. He peered in and saw the beautiful button I was wearing on my khadi waistcoat. It was a photo of the deities of Lord Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra in Melbourne. The boy's eyes lit up. Without saying a word, he repeatedly pointed first at the badge and then at himself, with his eyebrows going up and down, and a big smile on his face, as if to say, "Give it to me, give it to me." I did my best to ignore him, for I was rather attached to the badge and had worn it for a long time. When Srila Prabhupada looked over to see what was going on, I half suspected that he might tell me to give it to the boy. I was hoping not. Suddenly, Prabhupada leaned forward with his eyes wide and put up both his hands with his fingers spread wide. 10 rupees, he told the boy with mock seriousness. 10 rupees. Our solicitous young visitor was only momentarily taken aback. Shaking his head from side to side, he continued to point. Srila Prabhupada laughed and sat back. "All right, give it to him." Resigned, I dutifully handed over the badge, and the boy skipped merrily away. His prize was the lotus feet of the Lord of the universe. Mine was a little more detachment and surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord's servant, Srila Prabhupada. So it's quite sweet how this boy shows how much he expected mercy. He was begging and he really expected that he should definitely get the badge. And for us as well, we actually have to learn how to expect mercy. We have to do that because actually our situation is quite ridiculous. For thousands and thousands of years we've been engaged in sense gratification, trying to separate ourselves from the Lord. And now we're coming to ask him for so many things. But it's ridiculous, really. How can we ask him for anything? How can we even ask him for mercy? But we need to do that, because without mercy, what are we? We have nothing without the Lord's mercy. We are product of the Lord's mercy. And Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shri Giraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When I was living in Stellenbosch, it was quite an interesting situation where I heard some noises outside at night. I was staying in a cottage with some students, and then I went outside and I saw that the clothes that I hung on the line were all gone. So I decided to go to the fence to see if I could find the person who stole them. And I did. The person was on the other side of the fence, and he was actually wearing my pajamas. So it was this completely ridiculous situation already. And then what made it even more strange was that he was asking me to help him steal my clothes. Like, okay, he had a bag and he was trying to pull it under the fence and he was saying, please help me, please help me. And I was just thinking about how he's in a ridiculous situation, but he's expecting mercy. We're like that. We are completely ridiculous here in the material world. Still, we have to expect mercy. We have to do it. And we have to learn to beg. This boy is begging. And unless we're humble, we can't beg. And we know, Trinada Pisunichena Tarora Pisahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanyaha Sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Unless we're humble, we can't really chant. And unless we're humble, we can't beg. And we need to beg. We need to beg the Lord for His mercy. So they go together, humbleness and begging. And we need both in order to chant. We need to beg for the Lord's mercy to chant, and we need to beg for good association with the Lord's devotees. So much begging we need to do. And, okay. We flew back to Bombay at 5 o'clock, and by mid-evening Srila Prabhupada was back in his quarters at Hare Krishna land, Juhu Beach. Upon arrival in his room, he again admitted that his heart was getting weaker and that he was not feeling well. What's amazing is that even though Srila Prabhupada experienced so many health challenges, still he was so enthusiastic to preach. And actually, towards the end of his time here with us, when the doctor went to see him, he actually said that Srila Prabhupada is in so much pain, his body is in so much pain, that he should have left his body a long time ago. Anyone in his condition wouldn't be alive, but Prabhupada was alive. Only mystic yogis can do things like that. So Prabhupada, he only stayed inside his body. He was maintaining his own body just so that he could share more of his association with us for longer. Isn't that mercy? Isn't that compassion? That's amazing. And we can even see the example in our own spiritual masters. How many health difficulties do they face? And how much preaching are they still doing? It's amazing. We can really take a lot of inspiration from them. Okay, now we are on the 31st of December. It's 1975 still. Madhuvisa Swami, GBC for Australia, contacted us today and requested a confirmation of Srila Prabhupada's intention to attend their 4th annual Melbourne Ratha Yatra in mid-January. Australia's seasons are reversed to those in the Northern Hemisphere, so a few years ago Prabhupada had given his permission to hold the festival during the summer rather than in the cold of June, in order to attract the greatest number of people. So usually the Ratha Yatra would be in June, but because it's cold there in the Northern Hemisphere, he decided rather we'll switch it and we'll have it during the summertime. So this is an example of how Srila Prabhupada is making an adjustment so that we can broaden our preaching horizons. So the principle there is preaching Krishna consciousness to as many people as possible, and the adjustment is changing the dates of the Ratha Yatra so that everyone, or as many people as possible, could attend without the weather being too cold. Although Prabhupada wanted to attend, after some discussion he finally decided not to go. He reasoned that his legs, feet and hands were still quite swollen with fluid, and he was not feeling well enough to travel such a long distance. He did go on his walk though, and otherwise spent a quiet day, meeting a few visitors in the afternoon. Hansadutta returned from a day's shopping with a set of small bowls, a lota, a spoon, and a rimmed plate for Srila Prabhupada, all made of solid silver. Hansadutta was surprised to discover that Prabhupada didn't have his own eating utensils. So on his own initiative, he purchased a complete set of silverware. His Divine Grace was very pleased at his thoughtfulness and accepted the gift with humble appreciation. He handed them over to me with the instruction that they should be kept with him as his permanent travel set. So Srila Prabhupada didn't have his own eating utensils, and he could have asked at any time, he could have asked any of his servants to get that for him, but he didn't. He didn't do that. At any time he could have asked for anything, but oftentimes he didn't ask for anything at all. He was very simple and very humble. And there was one really nice pastime Sri Sakirti Prabhu was telling, where a monkey stole Srila Prabhupada's shoe, and he was busy fighting it, and then Sri Sakirti Prabhu took some prasadam and he was trying to bribe the monkey. He was saying, okay, you take the prasadam, I'll take the shoe. And every time the monkey got the prasadam and the shoe, and he tried many, many times. He's like, okay, no, you take the prasadam, I'll take the shoe. And every time the monkey won, he got both. So then eventually Sri Sakirti Prabhu gave up, and the monkey also gave up. He stopped chewing the shoe and he put it down, and it was on the roof. So Srila Prabhupada asked one of the younger devotees to climb up on the roof and get the shoe. So he climbed on the roof, and as soon as he touched the shoe, all these monkeys came and surrounded him. And we must understand that those monkeys are not like the monkeys here. Anyone who's gone to Vrindavan knows that those monkeys they're transcendental. So they were very scary. And this young boy didn't know what to do, so he just quickly ran down from the roof, and they were very happy that they managed to get Prabhupada's shoe. And they told Prabhupada, look, Prabhupada, we got your shoe back, but it was full of bite marks. And Prabhupada said, no, it's fine, I'll still wear that same shoe. So he didn't care, he said, we'll just fix the shoe and I'll still wear it. He could have asked for thousands of new shoes at any time, and he would have got it, but he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He was very simple and very renounced. And he was concerned with not wasting Krishna's energy. It takes energy from, Krishna's unlimitedly energetic, but, just in terms of everything that takes place to get the shoe to be made, it takes energy from the earth, and what's the use if you can still use it? It's a functionable shoe. So this is Prabhupada's mood. He's so renounced. Yeah. Okay. Hansadutta is now thoroughly enlivened with the idea of village-to-village preaching in India. Recent problems in Germany, where he is the GBC, have virtually stopped the preaching there. So he is looking for a new engagement. Prabhupada is therefore encouraging him to preach in the villages. Hansadutta spent the entire day inquiring about the price of buses and other equipment, and he talked with Prabhupada about bringing some men over from Germany to form an all-India traveling Sankirtan party. Although Prabhupada likes the idea, he doesn't want him to abandon his duties in Germany altogether. He told him that even if there are difficulties there, the efforts for the long-term establishment of Krishna consciousness have to be maintained. Since Hansadutta Prabhu has been instrumental in the development of the German yatra, Srila Prabhupada isn't keen to see him leave, lest everything collapse. But Srila Prabhupada also has no objection at all to Hansadutta's preaching in India, at least for the time being, while the difficulties persist. Srila Prabhupada likes the idea of having some of his senior preachers active in India. In many ways, he is personally carrying the full weight of the Indian preaching. He has few experienced men based here, and consequently has to do much of the preaching and management himself. Thus, the presence of another one of his trained preachers is therefore welcome to him. So Srila Prabhupada appreciated and still appreciates the preaching that his disciples and followers are doing. But actually, Srila Prabhupada could have single-handedly made the whole world Krishna conscious. And there's this conversation he has with Vishnu Jan Maharaj, where Vishnu Jan Maharaj is asking why it is that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said when he was leaving his body that he's leaving his work unfinished. Why did he say that? Why did he say that? And Srila Prabhupada answers that it's because he was leaving the work for us. It's not that he couldn't have done it all by himself in his one life. He could have. I mean, let's consider Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord of the universe. Of course, he could have done it by himself. Of course. But he didn't. Why? He left the work for us. Why? Because it's good for us. They want us to engage. That's why. So, although the Lord himself and his pure devotee, easily they can do it all by themselves. They don't need us. Still, they're letting us participate because they're so sweet. And Krishna, he's Atmaram. He's self-satisfied. He doesn't need any service. And Guru, he's completely dependent on Krishna. So he doesn't need service either. Krishna's looking after him. But both Krishna and Guru, they're allowing us to serve. They don't really need us, but they're allowing us to serve, and there's a loving exchange that takes place because of that. So we also know that from Bhagavad Gita text 18, chapter 18, text number 69, that the devotee who's preaching, he's most dear. So we get to become dear to the Lord just by engaging in this service. So we should try not to miss that opportunity to please our spiritual masters in the best possible way. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nantikoti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Are there any questions or comments or corrections? Okay, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, you have something? Yes.
To ask, in the beginning you mentioned Lord Shiva, taking the poison as nectar. I just wanted to ask, is it that Lord Shiva offered poison to Krishna?
Well, Shiva is a devotee of the Lord. I didn't read whether he offered it or not, okay. But because we're talking about how the devotee offers everything to Krishna and then it becomes nectar. Because he's a devotee, I think he would have offered it to the Lord. Yeah.
Because there was another, there's a pastime where Srimati Radharani, she's asking, she's talking to Lord Krishna about Lord Shiva being a devotee, like is he really a devotee? And then, yeah. Oh, sorry. So there's a pastime where Srimati Radharani, she's asking Lord Krishna, is Lord Shiva really a devotee? And then she lists out some things that Lord Shiva does that doesn't seem devotional, and then Lord Krishna is replying, giving the reason. And so she says, he does all sorts of abominable things. He takes ganja and intoxicants and things like that. And then Lord Krishna explains that Lord Shiva, he wants me to have all the best things, and so he takes all the stuff that is not nice. That's the mood behind it. So I was just thinking, would we offer abominable things to Krishna then? Mm-hmm. Is that?
That's a good point. No, we have to offer Krishna what he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Prabhupada also mentions also that yes, we're vegetarian, but it's not just because we want to be vegetarians. Because we also just want to give Krishna what he wants. Primarily, that's the goal. We want to give Krishna what he wants. He won't accept meat. He won't accept onions. He doesn't like it. He won't accept garlic. So our goal isn't just to be vegetarian or just to try to please anyone other than Krishna. We just want to serve Krishna and Radharani. So we offer what they like. Nothing abominable. We're not allowed to do that. Lord Shiva is in his own category of devotees. We shouldn't try to imitate him. We can't really even understand him. He's an avadut. Yeah, but thank you for that nice point. Yes. Anything else? Okay. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.